Come with me as I take you to some of my favourite cities on a long weekend. Buongiorno tutti! Together we'll explore the places I love. Oh, Palermo, what a beauty you are. Oh, my word, Madrid is next to heaven. And discover places new. We put the vroom vroom into Milano. Oh my, this is astonishing. From Stockholm to Lisbon, we'll raise a glass,
Sold.
and enjoy great food. Pork that melts in your mouth. I don't think there's any delicate way of eating it.
Oh,
We'll leave the tourist trail behind. Every bone in my body has been shaken. My goodness, we are on the ice.
yes.
Oh, my word. We are tacking. And seek out special places to stay. The view of Prague is magnificent. Along the way, we'll make new friends. Do you mind if we do a selfie?
Really?
And memories to last a lifetime. I think I shall always remember this. This is a beautiful moment. I have rarely seen such opulence. What an amazing sight. I am loving this. I can't wait to show you more. Come with me on a long weekend in one of my favourite cities. A place that set my heart racing since I was a boy. The Spanish capital, Madrid. A short flight from Britain, Madrid is located in the heart of Spain. Renowned as a city that never sleeps. It attracts nearly 10 million visitors every year. The British make up the largest number, touching down at Barajas Airport. Always a special moment for me, the moment of arrival. Aviation fuel in my nostrils, particularly at an airport like this of brilliant modern architecture. And ahead of me, a city with limitless opportunities for discovery. I adore Madrid. I cannot count how often I've had the thrill of returning since my first visits in the 1960s. Madrid, here I come. Over 3 days, I'll show you why it's the perfect destination for a long weekend. I'll take you to the city's best restaurants, hotels, and cafes.
What do you think?
That is magnificent. For the culture vultures, there's opera. Welcome to the Teatro Real of Madrid. There's fashion. Oh, my goodness. And there are hidden neighborhoods.
This is the place where everything happens, no?
With so much ahead of us, let's spend our first day in the bustling city centre.
A bailar.
Pues adelante, por favor. Soaking up the atmosphere of the streets. Muchas felicidades, congratulations. That was marvellous. We'll create a special Spanish sweet treat. If I was looking for tradition, I think I found it at Casa Mira. And visit one of my favourite bars with hidden secrets. The place where journalists, embassy officials hung out, and spies. Madrid was designated Spain's capital in 1561. Today it's home to over 3 million people, the Spanish Parliament and monarchy, and one of the world's most successful football teams. The broad Gran Via in the centre climbs one of the city's hills between elegant buildings, thronged with tourists and shoppers. Welcome to the roar and bustle of Madrid. Whether in medieval alleyways or broad 20th century boulevards, life here is lived on the streets, and that continues throughout the night. I like to be at the heart of a city, where there are theatres and cinemas and museums, where the politics takes place, the thrills of the metropolis. It's almost lunchtime. But today I won't take you to one of Madrid's many gourmet restaurants. Our long weekend begins with a surprise. Just off the busy Gran Via in the vibrant and eclectic Malasana district. This will be a distinctly modern Hispanic experience, where we'll be offered great food influenced by Spain's colonial past. You need to know where to look. This is Mercado de los Mostenses, established in 1946. Today it serves a mix of Spanish and Latin American cuisine. And in a city where you can easily spend 30 euros on a meal, you'll be hard-pushed to spend half that here. Sara.
Oh, hello.
Soy Michael.
Encantado. Nice to meet you.
¿Qué tal? Buenos días.
Ciao, gracias.
Joining me for lunch is Sara, a journalist who moved here from Argentina with her family when she was a girl. We're in the very heart of Madrid, and suddenly it's very different because, unlike most of Madrid, this is very multi-ethnic. All sorts of people are here.
Yes. It had Latin workers, immigrants, who were working for the Spanish owners.
Yeah.
But when they got retired, their sons didn't want to take that job, so they sell it to the Latin American workers. And now the owners of 80-90% of this market are Latin American people.
And presumably that means that a lot of the food that's served in the restaurants here, this is Latin American food.
Yeah, it is Latin American food, but you can see Spanish people and Latin American people together. And this is good because it brings this culture through gastronomy to Madrid, right?
More than 3 million Latin Americans live in Spain. Almost a third of them in Madrid. They're a legacy of centuries of Spanish colonial rule. We choose a cafe run by an old friend of Sara's from Ecuador.
Te presento a Michael.
Soy Michael Portillo.
Miguel Ángel, un placer. ¿Cómo estás?
Encantado.
Igualmente.
I've been hearing about your family.
Llevamos 20 años de cocina ecuatoriana en el mercado de los mostenses.
On the menu are dishes made with Ecuadorian staples. Banana, peanuts, local fish, and yuca, which is a starchy alternative to the potato. Hola! What do we got here?
La yuca que tienes en el seco de pollo, claramente. Luego tenemos una corvina del Mediterráneo.
Esa es la corvina.
La corvina. Es una sopa de pescado. En este caso tenemos un corviche, que es una masa de plátano con pasta de maní que tiene relleno de pescado con camarón.
Muy bien explicado.
Muy bien explicado.
If I'm right, we've got fish in 3 of our dishes. We've got a fish soup. Here we've got a corvina, which is like a large sea bass. And here we have a combination of fish and banana. I think I might try some fish soup.
Okay, wow, this looks amazing. Was it good?
Yeah, it's really nice. And actually, it's a bit like, French bouillabaisse. There are large pieces of fish inside it. This would be a meal on its own,
I have shrimp and yuca that I really love.
Show me the yuca.
It's like the potato mash.
This is yuca as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a lovely combination of sweet and savory.
Yeah, this is for like 4 people, Michael. We will have to eat a lot to finish this.
Just to say thank you very much. Wonderful meal.
Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí. Esto es Ecuador.
Saludos, mira. Ciao.
Perfect answer. What a feast to set up our long weekend. Before we start on Madrid's many historic treasures and attractions. It's early afternoon on our first day in Madrid. I'm visiting in the autumn, when the days are cooler than the baking summer months, and there's still plenty of blue sky and sunshine. After that lunch in the market, I'm back on the busy Gran Via with Sarah. We're searching the crowds for a friend of hers. I'm promised a much livelier performance than is offered by the human statue artists that you find in cities across Europe. Sarah's friend Galina brings 6 years of classical ballet training from Colombia. As well as performing for tourists and passers-by, she records her dance for her growing social media channel.
Hola, Gali. ¿Qué tal? Te presento a Michael, que viene
Galina, Michael, encantado de conocerla.
Igualmente.
I see there that you were beginning to do a dance.
Yo comencé a bailar, o sea, soy de Cali, Colombia. Comencé a bailar con 6 años. Empecé bailando salsa caleña, luego fui desarrollando mi estilo.
Galina, why dance in the street?
Porque creo que es bastante importante ocupar espacio. Por la calle, estamos aquí, ¿no? Y estamos haciendo cosas importantes, estamos produciendo arte que vale la pena. Y bueno, qué mejor que en un sitio tan céntrico como Gran Vía para mostrarlo.
What experiences have you had since arriving in Spain?
Es una experiencia bastante dura porque llegar a un sitio donde pierdes de cierta forma estatus es duro, ¿sabes? Como que tu estatus como persona, como artista.
So it's actually been pretty tough. And she's been surprised in Madrid that people, take life as it comes, whereas she comes from Latin America, where you're always on the lookout.
A bailar.
Pues adelante, por favor. You need open eyes and an open mind to penetrate a city on a long weekend. And then you might encounter a classically trained dancer performing in the street.
Un aplauso para esta Gali.
Muchas felicidades, congratulations. That was
gracias.
marvelous. Very powerful. I could see the gymnastics in your movements.
Muchas gracias a ustedes.
The next place to which I'll whisk you is a 10-minute stroll south, in the heart of the Old Town. Let me introduce a favourite Madrid square. It dates back to the 15th century, before the city was designated the capital. It's worth a stop and stare. One of the loveliest squares in Madrid, La Plaza Mayor, and this has been a meeting place since time immemorial. Here there have been markets, coronations, and the burning of heretics in a ritual known as an auto da fe. The whole square was rebuilt with his marvellous uniformity, with his colonnade, by King Philip III, and he's rewarded with an equestrian statue. A much-loved local business was born here in the mid-19th century. A master confectioner from Alicante set up a market stall selling a Spanish nougat called turrón. It proved so popular that in 1855 he relocated to a nearby shop, which is still doing a brisk trade today. And no matter how little time you have on your long weekend here, I recommend a visit. This is such a beautiful shop. It's like stepping back in time into the 19th century. Everything has been beautifully preserved. And here is the confection on display. This is turrón, the Spanish nougat. And under the picture of its founder, Luis Mira, is his descendant, Carlos. Hello, Carlos.
Encantado. Es mi tatarabuelo.
This is my great-great-grandfather.
Y la historia cuenta que con 20 años él venía del pueblo a Madrid a montar una tienda de turrón. Que él iba con un carrito tirado por burros.
It's a wonderful story, isn't it?
Yes. Lo bonito de eso es que son 6 generaciones de padres, hijos, abuelas, hijas, haciéndolo como se ha hecho siempre, de la misma manera. Gente de toda España que viene a Madrid a comprar nuestro turrón.
It's thought that turrón, a mixture of honey, sugar, egg whites and almonds, was first brought to southern Spain by the conquering Muslims in the early Middle Ages. I'm to join the head chef in the kitchen and discover some sticky secrets. Joaquín.
Hola, ¿qué tal?
Soy Michael.
Yo, Kirin.
Encantado. I'm just amazed that you're making the turrón at such a small scale.
Sí, es escala pequeña porque somos tradicionales.
Sí.
Hacemos el turrón como hace muchos años, con las mismas recetas.
Bueno, ¿y cómo se empieza? How do
Pues
you
mira,
start?
el agua.
A little bit of water to begin with.
Sí.
Muy bien.
Echamos aquí.
Adelante. This is a heavy pot of honey. Where's the honey from?
La miel es de romero y es una de las mejores mieles que hay.
Looks absolutely gorgeous. ¿Cuánto tiempo llevas aquí, Guinea? How long have you worked
Aquí
here?
llevo desde el año 74,
I've been here since 1974,
unos 48 años.
about 48 years. ¿Qué edad tenías entonces?
14.
14 when you started, my goodness. So you're getting used to it here.
Demasiado.
I know the place too well, he says. 9 kilos of honey, 9 kilos of sugar and a drop of water, and we have a lovely boiling mix ready to make the turrón.
Sí.
Now we're going to
Vale.
stir it over heat.
Sí.
I got hit by a piece of flying hot honey. Whew. While the honey mixture bubbles away, there are almonds to be toasted. How old is this machine?
150 años.
A 150-year-old machine.
Muy vieja.
Pero sirve, ¿no?
Sí, sí, sigue.
It does the job. ¿Y estas almendras, where are they from?
De Gijona.
Gijona,
Sí. La cuna del turrón.
which is the very cradle, the very heart of turrón making. Así, ¿no?
Sí.
No. Siento, hay unas cuantas en
Nada,
el suelo.
no pasa nada. Esos son gafes del oficio.
Bien. Gracias, Kim.
Nada.
We're just settling the almonds down, just like a big football raffle. Muy bien. Let there be fire. Switch on the motor.
Sí.
Almonds being toasted by a machine that is a century and a half old. If I was looking for tradition, I think I found it at Casamira. Once the ground almonds are added along with egg whites, the turrón is compressed and chilled overnight.
El turrón de Alicante. Tradicional.
Anda. Muy bueno.
Me encanta.
Really is very, very good. Obviously, it's extremely sweet and crunchy. You really taste the quality of the ingredients. Es estupendo.
Muy bien.
Todavía te gusta a ti.
Así.
Back on the streets, it's mid-afternoon. Time for a spot of shopping, maybe. Or a siesta. By tradition, shops in Spain shut in the middle of the day. But in Madrid, most stay open during the week and on Saturdays. I'll take this opportunity to check into my hotel at the far end of the Gran Via. Opened in 1956, the Suecia, which is Spanish for Sweden, was for decades the meeting place for Swedes living in Madrid, and a drinking spot for the American author Ernest Hemingway. Here I can unwind after a busy morning, and it will be my base from which to head into the heart of the action. Gracias. Portillo.
Perfecto. The room is for a long weekend with breakfast included.
Thank you very much indeed. A busy afternoon lies ahead on our first day in Madrid. But before we get going, join me for a coffee. TripAdvisor lists more than 12,000 restaurants and cafes in Madrid. Spoiled for choice. Let's plump for old world charm. Gracias. It's a 10-minute walk from my hotel. I was lucky enough years ago to discover the Café Cortado. That is a short coffee with just a dash of milk. It means you get away from those very long American black coffees. On the other hand, the milk takes the edge off the bitterness of the espresso. Most of the world is dominated by Italian coffees, like espresso, like ristretto, like cappuccino. But the Café Cortado is Spain's contribution to the world of caffeine. More than most places, Spanish restaurants and cafes are traditional in the way that the waiters present themselves. It's very typical for the waiter to be dressed quite formally in the white jacket, maybe with a black tie or black bow tie. And it's very common for waiters to be older and to have made a whole career out of being a waiter. They do it with great pride and they do it very well. On my early visits to Madrid, Spain was under the dictatorship of General Franco and suspicious of much of the outside world. Now, almost 50 years since his death, this city has become one of Europe's most popular destinations. On any long weekend here, I'd highly recommend visiting one of Spain's most impressive national buildings. Located at the opposite end of the Gran Via, it covers 135,000 square meters and has nearly 3,500 rooms. It opens to the public 360 days of the year. The Royal Palace of Madrid is huge. It dwarfs many other royal palaces in Europe. And unlike, say, Buckingham Palace in London, which is set in a fashionable residential district, this is positioned on high ground, dominating the valley beyond. And the reasons, both for its vastness and for its location, take us to the origins of Madrid as a city and as a capital. Over the centuries, the palace has been adapted, extended and repurposed. It was originally an Islamic fortress when much of Spain was under Muslim rule. Following a devastating fire in 1734, a wholly different building took shape. It is truly spectacular in scale, luxury and decoration. Oh, what grandeur, what elegance. Oh my word, I have rarely seen such opulence. This is one of the most richly decorated palaces in the world. Everything from the marble floors to the painted ceilings. Just one magnificent room after another. Here, portraits by Francisco de Goya, one of the greatest Spanish masters. Everything speaks of extraordinary wealth. Ana de la Cueva, the president of Spain's national heritage, guides me through it. And in the palace we have one magnificent room after another. This is superb, the throne room. And this suggests that although the Spanish royal family doesn't live in this palace, it is very much used for royal events.
Yes, it's being used almost every week. We have a lot of official ceremonies here. It is a palace that has a lot of life.
Do their majesties sit upon these thrones?
Our monarchs never sit. They wait respectfully here, standing for the guest.
Like the British royals, the Spanish monarchy has had a turbulent history. From 1931 and throughout Franco's dictatorship, the monarch was exiled. It wasn't until Franco's death in 1975 that the grandson of Alfonso XIII, Juan Carlos, was crowned king. He abdicated in 2014 under a cloud of scandal. And his son, the reigning king, Philip VI, assumed the throne. There are many parallels between the British and Spanish monarchies, of course. One is that the British got rid of their monarchy for 12 years. They cut the head off the king. We didn't necessarily expect the restoration of the monarchy, and many people in Spain didn't expect the restoration of the monarchy, but here it is.
With the democracy, I think that was a good combination. The Spanish monarchy has incorporated some modern attitudes. All the work of arts belong to the state, belong to the public. In the UK, if I am not mistaken, all these assets belong personally to King Charles III.
I think also the Spanish royal family is slimmed down by comparison with the British royal family.
Yeah, I suppose so. I think that the royal family in Spain is just limited to the king, the queen, and their daughters.
Also, in some ways, less formal. I remember once I was sitting at a lunch in Madrid next to King Juan Carlos's sister. And I said to her, "Oh, when did you decide to come to this event?" She said, "Oh, my brother rang me up last night and said, would I come?" I said, "Last night?" I said, "In Britain, this would have been planned 2 years in advance." A beautiful ceremony marked the 18th birthday, the age of majority, of the heir to the throne, King Philip's daughter, Princess Leonor.
Well, it was a very beautiful ceremony. She first went to the parliament to swear the constitution. That means that she's going to fulfill all the rules established in the constitution. And then afterwards, she came to the royal palace to meet the people here in the throne room, and we had a dinner. So it was a very important day.
Before leaving these sumptuous surroundings, I can't resist stepping out onto the royal balcony. In an egalitarian age and in a democracy, the question is, how do you justify displays of opulence and wealth like this royal palace? Well, in Spain, the royal palace belongs to the state. The royal family performs events and ceremonies which serve the state. In Spain in particular, where quite recently a king abdicated because of scandal, the royal family is very aware that it can remain in office only with the approval and acceptance of the Spanish people. There's just time for a stunning historical insight that wouldn't feature in an average weekend. At the other end of the Gran Via, by the sophisticated Retiro Park, is Madrid's museum district. Here, many weekenders visit the renowned Golden Triangle of art galleries. But for now, we can make a discovery that's hidden in plain sight. A collection of documents that record the moment when the world was transformed. In this country, a naval museum is an important one because Spain was a great maritime power from the voyage of Christopher Columbus in 1492 until the Battle of Trafalgar. And this museum commemorates, amongst other things, those brave navigators and commanders and their crews who set forth across unknown seas in risk of their life, hoping for riches and wealth. This was the moment when the modern world took shape. After unsuccessfully petitioning various of Europe's royal families to fund a voyage, the Italian merchant Christopher Columbus finally persuaded Spain's Queen Isabel and King Fernando to sponsor his quest in 1492. He went in search of a westerly route to India, but landed in America. The decision of the Spanish king and queen may have been one of the best political decisions of all time, because the result was the discovery for Spain of the Americas, enriching this country beyond belief. Here's a delightful model of the Santa Maria. This was Columbus's flagship on his first voyage. Can you imagine being tossed around on the Atlantic waves for weeks in this tiny and flimsy craft? Perhaps the museum's most important exhibit is this map. Published in 1500, the Universal Chart, as it was known, brought together the old world of Europe and the new world of the Americas for the first time.
Hola Michael, bienvenido al Museo Naval.
Great to see you indeed. I've arranged to meet José María Martín, the museum's head of cartography.
La Carta Universal que se hizo en el año 1500 en el puerto de Santa María por Juan de la Cosa, un navegante que estuvo en los dos primeros viajes con Cristóbal Colón y que luego hizo otros 5 viajes más a América. Entre el tercero y el cuarto es cuando realizó esta carta para que los reyes católicos pudieran ver cómo era el mundo en aquel momento. Es fundamental en la historia de la cartografía y del conocimiento geográfico porque es el primer mapa en el que está representado América.
You see here Europe or Europa, Africa. Here, Mare Oceanum. So this is just called the Ocean Sea. It doesn't have the name Atlantic. This map predates lines of longitude and latitude, but we do see the equator and the Tropic of Cancer. The coast of Europe is really very detailed and very accurate. The story of the map has an extraordinary twist. 9 years after its creation, it vanished. For more than 3 centuries, its whereabouts were unknown. Only in 1832 was it rediscovered in an antiquarian bookshop in Paris and then returned to Spain. It was given a little bit of reinforcement so that it wouldn't fall apart, and from 1853 it has been on display here at the Naval Museum. Here we see these years of the discovery of the New World, the encounter of the Old World with the New. What is the importance in history of that moment?
La Carta de Juan de la Cosa es muy importante porque es el comienzo de la cartografía americanista. Había que hacer sitio en los mapas a un nuevo continente, América, y a un nuevo océano, el Pacífico, que es el más extenso que conocemos.
In this room, we have represented one of the most important moments in the history of the world, the beginning of globalization, when the old world becomes aware of the existence of the new, with profound consequences for both. The old world is enriched. The new world, well, the native people suffer a great deal. Some of this is now regarded as a contested achievement, but what is not contested is the courage of those who set forth across the waves. The first day of our long weekend in Madrid is almost at an end. So join me for a late afternoon stroll in one of the city's many green spaces. For the long weekender in Madrid, this park is very well named, El Retiro, the retreat. It's very green with its thousands of trees. But within the confines of the city, there are numerous parks, many much wilder and greener still, making Madrid, unexpectedly, one of the most sustainable cities in Europe. I've always enjoyed this park for its beautiful gardens and this sculpture of the fallen angel inspired by Milton's Paradise Lost. It's thought to be one of the few monuments anywhere dedicated to Satan, and it stands at 666 meters above sea level. Even when I'm surrounded by trees, I like to see beautiful buildings. And actually my dream would be to have one of those apartments there with a balcony and great windows overlooking the park. As the sun sets on our first day, I'll take you to a favourite bar of mine. And on your visit to Madrid, I recommend that you make time after dark. It's been ranked 4th in the world for the most bars after London, Tokyo, and New York. So of course there's something here for everyone. Darkness is falling, and that happens very late in Spain because the country is really in the wrong time zone. Even so, it will be many hours before the young people venture out to the clubs. Madrid is famously a city that never sleeps, and that is yet another of its attractions. I've been coming to this bar for many years. 5 minutes walk from my hotel.
Buenas tardes, señor Portillo, ¿cómo está? Bienvenido a Hablando del Inglés.
Muchísimas gracias. Buenas tardes. Another of Madrid's fine hotel bars. Vale, gracias. Is soaked in the recent history of this city. This is the oldest hotel in Madrid. It opened its doors in 1886. It's held aloft by iron columns that run through the lobby. And so this hotel and others like the Ritz were in place well before the First World War. And in the following decades, the bars of these luxury hotels were the place where journalists hung out and business people, naval and army officers, embassy officials, military attachés, courtesans, and spies. Madrid was a hotbed of spies as Franco strove for power and throughout the Second World War. At the time, Hitler hoped for an alliance with the Spanish dictator, and the Allies were determined to stop him. Carlos, were you followed?
No, don't worry. The coast is clear.
My contact is Carlos, a man with expertise in espionage of the era.
Well, during the First and the Second World War, Spain was a neutral country. Being a neutral country allows a lot of spies activities. The Germans put a lot of effort in sending agents to Spain. In fact, they want Spain to join the Second World War.
Spain was sympathetic to the Nazis, to the Axis powers, and Britain was worried about Spain becoming a collaborator with the Nazis and very worried about Gibraltar.
Yeah, exactly. The promise of Hitler to Spain was to give Spain Gibraltar in exchange for the alliance to Germany.
The British naval base, the runway at Gibraltar, these were very important to the British war effort. Whilst German spies were on the loose, one of Britain's most notorious double agents was equally active in Madrid. Now, the infamous British spy, Kim Philby, that we now know was a Soviet agent, what was his connection with Spain?
Well, in fact, he was the head of the British spies in Spain and Portugal.
Kim Philby was a British intelligence officer and a double agent for the Russians. In the 1930s, his cover was journalism, reporting on the Spanish Civil War while spying for the Soviets.
Philby was in Madrid at the end of the Spanish Civil War. He entered with the troops of Franco. He got, in fact, a medal from Franco. The Soviet agents tell him to use that opportunity to kill Franco, but he didn't do it.
So Philby, who was actually a Soviet agent, pretended to be on the side of Franco.
Yeah.
Bars like this were the ideal meeting place for spies and their operatives. Busy, low-lit, with plenty of entrances and exits. However, Carlos and I have chosen a poor position for our clandestine meeting.
Well, this is not the best place for a spy.
No.
Because you cannot control what is in your back. The spy will always sit with his back to a wall. They want a room with a lot of exits, so they cannot be trapped.
Easy to go to the bar, leave a bit of information or swap something over or leave a bag and have a bag picked up.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was a minister, I was involved in some political conspiracies, and the press wanted to know who I was meeting. And I found when I was traveling in my official car that I was being followed by a motorbike, which was a journalist. So I asked my car to go to Brown's Hotel. It has two entrances, one in Albemarle Street and one in Dover Street. So my car dropped me at the hotel. I went inside. Of course, the journalist waited outside. I went through the hotel into the other street, jumped in a taxi, and I was away.
Did you use any of this spicecraft when you were in Madrid in the British Embassy?
Of course I did, but I cannot tell you. After a hectic first day in the city, there's time before bed to admire Madrid's superb nighttime skyline. As I'm thinking of setting my alarm clock for the morning, other younger specimens are just waking after a night spent in the clubs. Personally, I don't favour the Count Dracula schedule, but nocturnal Madrid may be just the thing for you.